Before we jump into the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq 100, we're going to talk about exactly what is happening behind the scenes, specifically this week. Now, if you watched Friday's video, you knew this morning we had Coke and a few other names. But this week specifically, we have a lot of the big boys, right? Basically, I think 8 of the top 10 holdings in the SPY have earnings this week. We have some major implications. So when we get through here, when we look what's happening tomorrow after hours, what do we have? Microsoft, Google, Visa, Enphase, Chipotle. Let me tell you, CMG, it's like that stock only goes up. The next day after close, we have Meta, Roku, Teladoc. Before opening on Wednesday, Boeing, Amazon on Thursday, Intel, Caterpillar. We have Intel, Snap, Cloudflare. I mean, it's crazy. Pinterest. And then on Friday, it's, of course, all the notorious oil names, which Exxon's at highs again right now. So it's what do you buy? What do you do? Now, when we look at what's happening, you got a little bit of a fake out today. We got a little bit of a drop. I'm not going to say it's a fake. I'm going to say it's a drop on the day. But when we look here, we have some interesting behavior. We have some interesting movement taking place. But what will we say first? You already know, it's the beginning of the video. What do we say in the beginning of the video? We tell you about 3 levels. And if you've been here for the past 3 weeks, what do you need to know? If you're looking to be bearish, if you're looking to be bullish, if you're looking to trade the breakout or the massive breakdown, what do you need to know? Should you be going short yet? Should you be going long here? To keep it as simple as possible, you need to understand these 3 levels. You have your February highs, which is a major support, 12.95. You couldn't test it today, but you got very close, within 20 points. You have that median level, 13.108, 13.110. And then you have the top level, 13.2, 13.22, right? And that's where we're range trading, okay? Every time we've come down to this level, it's been a buy, you bounce back up. But the ultimate point here has been, from a large higher time frame, what can we all agree on, right? Again, on this channel, we're unbiased. We're to the point. We understand right now there's a separation between fundamental and technicals, right? But from a technical viewpoint, since October, what are we doing? We're making higher lows. We're making higher highs on the daily and weekly time frames, okay? Not the 5 minute, not the 15, not the 1 hour, not the 2 hour. On the daily and weekly time frames, the market still shows strength. Now, again, I want to just say, we have to look at it from a few different viewpoints. If you're a scalper, then maybe you only look at the 5 minute, right? Maybe that's all that matters to you. But when we look at this, this is what we're looking at, right? You continue to make higher lows continually. So again, I'm going to tell you right now, though, I do believe this week specifically, we get the breakout. I think there's a 5% chance or lower that we do not break out above 13.2 or below 12.95. I would say it's a very low possibility. So let's break down exactly why. Now, before we get into that content, I have to ask you to do 2 things. Consider liking and subscribing every single day. I make videos for you, so you are prepared. I'll tell you what's going on in the market, the fundamentals, the technicals, what's happening on the watch list throughout the day, whether the Fed member speaking, everything in between, so you are prepared. Right? I tell you if I'm right, I tell you if I'm wrong, and I go over previous plays as well, and I show you what I traded on the day. Now, if you are interested in making that next step, getting around a community of traders, not signals. Do not think of it as a signal viewpoint, because if you go into anything expecting to get handouts, expecting to just trade automatically and easy success and be a millionaire, that's not what's going to happen, right? It's about getting around traders, understanding why we trade, what we look for, understanding the technicals, understanding good trades versus bad trades, risk to reward, everything in between. Then Discord might be for you. But I will say, you get a lot of this content absolutely free here on the channel. But check this out. The link is down below. We opened up some spots right now. It is available. They have been closed for about 2-3 weeks. But check it out if you're interested. The link is down below. Let's get to it. Now, the first thing I'm going to do, and I'm going to tell you, and people in Discord, you've seen it. You've witnessed exactly what I'm about to tell you about heavily. I'm only interested in scalps right now. I'm not looking at swings. I'm not looking for 2 months out. And that's really been the bread and butter over the past maybe 3 to 4 months. But as we stepped into March and the bank crisis and all this, I've really just taken a step back. So what did we trade today? We only took a few trades. Jay got into some Teslas. He got into some Qs. But ultimately, this is what we traded. We had the descending triangle on SPY. We traded that down. Very small. Made about 20-30%. We broke down. It was a good trade there. The next one, Jay started going short on Qs as well, right? Got in there. Boom, you broke down as well. So you traded that downside, but ultimately there was no follow through. And it just makes out for why you don't want to be forcing these plays. Going in a little bit deeper, Microsoft, we traded this one. You started breaking back up. This was pretty easy, 280.6. We had upside into like 283, give or take. That thing went pretty nice, but it was, trading with earnings this week. So the volatility wasn't going to be there because of the implied volatility going into earnings on Wednesday. So that's what I traded today. But ultimately, why are we not trading? Why are we not swing trading, right? Why are we not looking for bigger positions? It's because of this, guys. Going all the way back since April 3rd, April 4th, you topped out, and we've been in this range back and forth. There's no reason to overcomplicate this. This is how we're moving. And if you really look at the action on the day, you can definitely see that there's a fight between sellers and buyers, okay? But when you really look here, sellers push you down all throughout the morning. Decent volume, but then buyers step in down here as well. So really quick, if we bring the indicator list up real quick so I can actually show you this, you're going to see what I'm talking about. You see just a little bit of a surge of volume, if you will, down at these lows, right? So you start breaking down, go to something like, let's go to like the 1 minute so you can see it a little bit better. The 1 minute gives you the best viewpoint in my opinion. But you can actually see, you start coming down and then buyers start stepping in at these lows down here, okay? They start stepping in and you push back up. You can see maybe a little bit better on SPY as well. I prefer looking at volume on Thinkorswim. That's just me. But you can see you start stepping down, your volume gets back into local high ranges, and you can see down here at around 1043, massive buying, almost your biggest volume on the day on SPY. Very comparable to that sell side volume that you had, right? And volume doesn't necessarily have to be there to push you up or push you down, but volume is very telling of reversals, right? So if we're pushing down and a massive buyer steps in, they're trying to get into a position, right? And it gives us a better idea of where we stand as a whole in the market. So that's something that we have to kind of learn to understand, right? Of what's really happening beneath the surface of what we're looking at there. Then we take a really quick look at Bookmap and we look at what's happening here. This is level 2 data, so basically showing you a heat map of what's happening on the market. And again, nothing too crazy. Beginning of the day, we had that selling, your CVD pushing down, showing you most of that was selling. But then again, you have those iceberg orders coming in with large orders to the upside, right? Not the craziest, not the biggest, but still showing you buyers are sizing in, getting positions as you get back to the bottom of the range on NQ. Right? So this is ES, and we're going to go into ES and NQ on the charts, but I want to show you something too, is you're not even getting nearly as low to your range. Because what do we know? This is Bookmap. Check them out. The link is down below if you're interested. Really cool platform to show you what's happening under the scenes as well with the volume and gives you a better understanding. And by the way, at the end of the day, you get a lot of buying coming in here as well. But going back to this chart of looking at what's happening here on ES, and I want to show you this because it's, in my opinion, very important as well. If we look here specifically at NQ, we can say there's 3 ranges. We know that, right? It's very, very clear. The 3 ranges here, 13.1, 13.2, 12.95, the end. Now, ES is a little bit more interesting here because ES's chart is clearly more bullish than Nasdaq right now. What's one thing we need to understand though, is that this rally to the upside has been led by NQ since January. We all know that. Tech has led this rally. Does it make sense for tech to kind of be stalling or channeling sideways while you're having all of their earnings coming up? It does make a little bit of sense. Call me crazy. But when we look a little bit deeper here and when we look what's happening, ES looks really good here. You're bouncing on your level, 41.38. Basically have 3 ranges here also on ES, maybe even 4. The top of the range you're looking for a breakout is above 4,200. That's what you want. If you get a breakout above 4,200, you're extremely bullish. I'll say that right now. You are extremely, extremely bullish if you break out above 4,200. But you've been holding this level 2 at around 41.38, which was also in the newsletter. The link for that's down below. It's absolutely free. But then 4,100 as well for your bear side. But the representation of 12.95 is almost the same thing as 4,100 because we were testing this at the same time. But now we can see that ES is kind of separating itself. The same thing with the Dow. And when you go and look at Dow, the Dow also had a pretty great day, right? Still looks decent, still holding up. You can tell the ES and Dow are holding up much better than tech right now. So this tells me personally, what are we seeing? Probably seeing some profit taking over the past week and a half on tech specifically going into earnings, repositioning, probably setting up some hedges as well going into these big earnings. And I know what you're all thinking, Tyler, there's no way we perform for these earnings. There's no possible way that these come out good. There's no way. I'm going to tell you right now, when you're looking at these earnings, it's like I tell you every time, the biggest thing is not going to be the overall earnings statements of how much money they made. And you're like, Tyler, you're crazy. Do you not understand what earnings mean? I understand. But during a recession, which we are most likely in or coming out of one, the Fed says we're stepping into one, whatever you want to believe, the goal is not to be making crazy amounts of money. Yes, if you're doing that, congratulations, you're going to do really well. Okay, that's something to understand. But if you have and you can provide a logical viewpoint of a strong outlook going forward, which is what banks did. Banks, they beat earnings, but they also provided a very good statement about moving forward. JP Morgan, even a little bit Goldman Sachs. And those did really well. And this is the story that we're seeing right now. So going into these tech earnings, I'm looking at the forward-looking statements. When I look at Microsoft, I believe they're going to miss. But the main point, though, is AI going to lead the story? Is ChatGPT, is all the new, data they're receiving, is all the new hype, is all the new traffic, all the new use cases actually becoming relevant possibly? Are those going to be the story that propel Microsoft and ultimately will lead the SPY? That's my opinion. With Google, I look at them probably doing really well from YouTube, doing well from almost everything, and what they're just taking a market share from different across the board. But I also look at them and saying, well, AI could actually hurt them because Microsoft is killing it. And I don't know if Google is going to have a good outlook. I really don't. That's the difference here. And that's what you have to be looking at. The worst earnings I think that could possibly come out are probably Apple. I'm not going to lie. I think Apple might be absolutely treacherous, but that's next week. So a different story. But that's how you have to look at earnings from a different viewpoint of just, black and white of, do we make money? Did we lose money? Because we've seen plenty of stocks lose on earnings and still propel and go crazy and go vertical. Understand the difference there. That's one thing you need to be paying attention to, one thing you need to be focused on, okay? Now, again, going into tomorrow, I really don't think the earnings tonight are going to be that major. I don't think they're going to be that big affecting us, okay? We do have UPS, Halliburton, GM, 3M, Pepsi, Spotify, RTX. A lot of Dow stocks, okay? A lot of Dow stocks coming in here. Now, the one that I'm most excited for, I do somewhat like 3M. I'm going to tell you that right now. 3M's a name that I think you could start getting some love. 3M, right? Very interesting name. When we look at them on like a daily perspective, it's probably the earnings that I'm most excited about and has just the most potential, maybe back into that at least, 111, possibly higher into 115 and pushing up even more depending on the momentum from Dow. Okay. And from their earnings, they've had a really bad rap. They've been doing really bad technically and fundamentally as well over the past few months. So any good news can definitely boost these guys to the upside. There was also an earnings today. FRC, I think they just reported and their earnings weren't great. And their statement, I have it right here. This was their statement. FRC says it's pursuing strategic options, which means it's probably trying to sell or get new investors. Very interesting name down here as well. I'm interested to see their statement and what's happening with this bank crisis because it's going to give you a viewpoint further into the bank crisis. And I actually like them going into earnings. It was kind of like one of those crazy long shot names, not going to lie. It's heavily shorted as well. But looking at FRC, I think the small banks, the regional banks give you a better viewpoint of what's happening across the board with banks rather than looking at Bank of America, Wells Fargo. Like I've said, we don't need to be looking at XLF, right? XLF is not going to give you a viewpoint of the bank crisis. It's not, okay? KRE is. And KRE is still at lows. KRE is still in the trenches. KRE is still in pain. So you have to understand what's happening there as well. So when I look at these and I look at KRE, the bank crisis is still kind of an issue, even though everyone's saying it's not an issue. FRC's earnings, looking at strategic options, it's not looking like it wants to go up yet. But still, there's a lot of upside potential. If it starts rising, shorts could easily get liquidated. But that's what I'm saying, though. So when we look at things, we have to look at them from a glass half full and think about them a little bit more seriously or technically speaking, not from technicals, but technically speaking as a whole. We can't just look at them at black and white. And so when we look at what's happening with the bank crisis, if these banks continue to have issues, the regionals, the bank crisis is still at play because the regional banks, small banks are still going to suffer. That's the issue. And that's what's at hand here, right? So it's important to me that I try to explain this to you guys as simple as possible and give it to you in a way that's relatable for you to understand when you're looking at the market and trading stocks or whatever you may be doing. So when we look at this, I hope this gives you an understanding. If you want me to break things down a little bit more, please comment down below. I would love to just understand what is maybe harder for you guys to understand and what maybe I should focus on a little bit more because I'm trying to get a little bit more into some of these stocks as we're coming back into a better market. You need to understand that as we step into a better market, you're going to have a lot more opportunities. You're going to be able to make more money in this market. If you weren't trading in 2020, 2021, it was a great time to be alive if you weren't just trading memes. Yeah, memes made you money, but in the long run, you were able to just really play the overall trend. And that's kind of where we're getting back into, right? To where you're just trading that trend. There's not as much chop back and forth. You may chop in a range, but overall, you're getting clear direction, either, to the upside or to the downside. It's very, very clear over the past 4-5 months, give or take. And this is really where you're going to be primed to make your money, right? The chop, the downside, it's awesome. It's cool. You can scalp all day long if you want. But at the end of the day, you're going to make money with those swings and with those deep positions and conviction when you get big breakouts. So again, that's the focus for me. I make money scalping, but I make a bulk of my money when I'm swing trading, when I'm really setting myself for those big gainers and the big momentum moves. Okay. That's where I'm happy. That's where I succeed the most. I might make a few bucks when it comes to trading some of these scalps during the day, and I'm having some success. But overall, I'm a lot happier when I can swing, because that's where I'm going to be profitable. That's where I'm going to make my money. Few things before I let you out of here. Stocks I'm looking at this week. Okay. Now, I'm going to say options trading on like something like Microsoft, unless you're deep on the downside, I don't think it's really worth trading. Like today when we got into it, it was like 180.6. So like we had $2 of upside, but I knew going into it, I wasn't going to make that much money because they had earnings, and I even played weeklies and like right at the money. And then, so that it wasn't like the greatest play, but I still made a few bucks, right? I like Microsoft though. I still think going into earnings, you have upside to like 283. You get above 283, you can push to 285. I'm going to tell you that right now, even tomorrow. Tomorrow you have a decent day, you get above 283. I'm targeting towards 285. Like it, love it. I don't really care. One of my favorite names out there. This week, I think Apple's probably gonna have some of your best setups. I loved them. If you were in the live stream, I mentioned them a handful of times. Every day on the channel, we go live here from 10:30 to around 11:30, 12 Central Time, right? Those videos do get taken off the channel, so so you can only watch them when we're live, and they're free. We answer questions, we go over trades we like, just like Apple today. Apple, if you can start getting back above 165.5, I do believe you have room back up to 167.5, 167 flat into the earnings. Great name, performing very well. Definitely one of the most bullish stocks that's out there right now. Okay, I'm going to tell you that right now. But I don't believe they're going to have the best earnings. I'm going to tell you that right now. I don't think they're going to. I could be wrong. I know the savings account just came out, but there's a reason they're trying to pivot in different areas and take advantage of the market, right? They have a lot of cash on hand. They're trying to take advantage of this market right now. It makes sense what they're doing, but as a whole, I'm telling you right now, don't get sucked up into this idea that Apple, they're doing all this savings, they're offering these great rates, they got to be making so much money. They're hurting. Remember, that 40% drop in computer sales, that was tough. That was not good news, okay? So definitely looking at Apple for some potential upside into this week, but I think next week it could get hurt. So 167 if it gets above 165.5 roughly, okay? Next up, Tesla. Tesla's like just that name is just crazy. What a name. So today, Jay definitely had this one like to the tick. So once we keep saying it too, below 163 is that level for you. Like 163, let me go out to the daily so I can mark it like exactly. I want to mark it so you have the exact number in front of you. Yep, it's right there. So all it is this right here. Yeah, but 163.96, 163 roughly. But there's kind of like two levels in there because it goes back down here as well. So if you look, once you get below that level, we can go like to the 15 minutes to see it a little bit better. If you get below this and you hold below this, you're bearish, right? 163 to 164 almost, right? That's your little zone. But as you can see today, you can go like to the 5 minutes and zoom in a little bit more. You drop down, you retest, you push and break down quick to 159. Buyers did show up down there. There was heavy volume coming into Tesla at 159. So it's not just wanting to go down and fill that gap yet. It's a great name, a great play, but I still want to say be careful. It's not one of those easy YOLOs. You're just going to fill the gap to the downside. But I still think sellers are trying to hold this down. And if Microsoft, if Google perform bad, that's going to hurt the Nasdaq. It's going to hammer the Nasdaq. You have to understand that. And if the Nasdaq gets hammered and we start seeing that downside play out, I'm telling you right now, Tesla will be one of the favorites on the downside for shorts. Because I'm going to tell you right now, positions will get liquidated as you start dropping down to 145. But it's not something you just jump into immediately. I recommend watching what's happening here, seeing if sellers are stepping back in, how you react at 163, 164, which you're kind of getting rejected here at the end of the day. But those are the names I'm liking. That's what I'm liking in the market. If you have questions, comment down below. See you tomorrow. Good luck trading these earnings.